Wow,
Snap call.
10 for the ultimate. Oh!
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, you can tell from the reactions of Jason Somerville there that that is a very bad turn card for James Hopkins. He has just made the bottom end of the straight, and Duy Ho has just made the top end of the straight. This is going to be a disaster.
It is likely to be a bit of a car crash. We are in the Aussie Millions main event from 2018. There's about 50 players left. We're already in the money. Everyone's won about 25K, and it's Duy Ho against James Hopkins, and whoa boy, things are about to get nuts.
Whoa boy, that's what they say in Australia, down
Yeah,
under, you
you
know.
know.
Anyway, whoa boy was what was said by DJ Elixir and Brian with a Y when they suggested this on Twitter. Use this Twitter address when you suggest and include a YouTube link when you suggest a hand.
Yep. Now, before we actually get to the hand, we have to thank the people who make this video possible, and that is Dash Digital Cash, an all-new type of cryptocurrency. It's not really that new.
It's not really that new,
It's
but
not
it
new
is
at all.
a pretty great type of cryptocurrency. Some of the advantages that Dash has over pretty much any other cryptocurrency is extremely fast transactions. And when I say that, I mean 1 second.
Yes. You literally, from my phone to his phone, 1 second.
One
Crazy.
second. And how much did that cost?
1 penny.
That's crazy. I can't believe it. Dash is amazing in how fast it works, how easy it is to use. Do some research on Dash. It's one of the coolest cryptos out there.
We really think it has a great chance to be adopted by the greater world and merchants and Starbucks and Target and all of that because it's a perfect actual currency, like a useful currency. We really encourage you to check it out.
Definitely do that, and let's get to the hand.
For the last hand of the level or something, you know, wow. If I called up Kevin Martin and said, hey, Kevin Martin, do you want to come do a commentary with me? Oh, by the way, we're going to see like 4 or 5 flat calls with Ace King while you're here. Kevin would have said, no way I'm leaving Canada. Get out of here. I'm never talking to you again. Even the thought of that would be so disgusting.
I would have stayed in my igloo
Yeah.
back in Canada.
But somehow we see it again. Okay, so 10-5 offsuit did not play.
Yeah, with graphical error, let's reset the hand. I believe we have a button open, or sorry, hijack open from Ace King,
And then
button
a
flats.
button
That makes
calls.
more sense.
Yes.
Just the graphicals were a little bit
Yeah,
wonky.
We sorted that out, though.
Yeah. We're going to see a continuation bet from Ace King, and Hopkins has a gutter backdoor flush draw. I don't really see him going anywhere just yet.
Little
in
does he know
position.
how bad of shape he is
Yeah, that'd
in.
be an awful straight to hit. 10.
Let's see a 10 dealer. Oh, this is spicy.
A race here would be interesting. Looks like that's what's going to happen. Pretty small bet here on the flop, right? Let's point that out. 17K into, 50 something.
51,000. Call.
Wow,
Snap call.
Well, it looks like James Hopkins is creating a pretty high variance spot for himself here, raising the 9 high with the straight draw and the backdoor flush draw on the flop. Why is he doing it, Jonathan?
Well, he probably thinks it isn't good enough to call because of their stack sizes. He's just not deep enough to be able to call and then have the implied odds.
Sure.
So I think he has to raise with his gut shot and backdoor flush draw as well and hope that's he has enough fold equity enough of the time that it's going to work out.
I mean, he doesn't have to raise, obviously.
Of course.
He can just fold his hand. This is a
Yes.
pretty bad flop for his hand, even though he did flop a gut shot. But there are some factors here that might make him think he can win this pot a lot of the time. And those factors all have to do with his opponent, Duy Ho.
So Dewey does a few things that sort of let the bat signal out that maybe he's not a professional, right?
Right.
Number one, he opens 3.5 times the blinds. That's not something people really do, especially this late in a tournament. There's only 50 players left here in the Aussie Millions main event. Number two, he bets 17K, super small. Now, a lot of pros will bet super small, but they're usually doing it based on board texture and things like that. We're guessing that Duy Ho may be doing it based on hand strength instead.
Yes.
Now, granted, we can see his hand, but we also have this other clue about opening 3.5x, and the third clue, which is actually calling this raise with Ace King. Tell him why that's questionable.
Well, because we are not getting enough of a price with the type of equity we have against
Yeah.
the raising range here.
Well, that's certainly the answer.
Yeah, so really, we've only seen this one hand from Duy Ho, but what Jonathan and I are doing here is making a bunch of assessments based on sizing, the pre-flop sizing and then the flop sizing that looks weak, and clearly Hopkins is making the same read, or else he wouldn't make this high variance play where he's starting to risk a decent portion of his stack. So what he's saying is, Duy Ho, I know you're weak. I know you're weak because of your sizing. I can tell that you're an amateur. I'm going to take advantage of that. Unfortunately, it looks like Duy Ho is one of those sticky amateurs, and
Yeah.
it's not necessarily going to work out for Hopkins.
Yeah, I mean, this is questionable. In some ways, you could say, well, Duy Ho's got overcards and the gut shot to the nuts. How can he not call? But his overcards may not be good.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Ace Queen has got us in a lot of trouble here, right? Like, if an ace comes, we're happy, but actually we're sad.
A set of 4s has us in a lot of trouble here.
That too. Top 2 has us in a lot of trouble. These are all things that are very reasonable holdings for Hopkins. So really you're supposed to fold here, especially when we're not super deep. If we had hundreds of blinds, of course we can call. We can call just to try and hit the gutter and the nuts and get pizzade, but that isn't necessarily going to happen.
It's a frustrating spot for Hopkins, right? Like, if he knew Duy Ho's hand, he'd be like, well, that's a hand you're supposed to fold, so I'm making the right play against you, but you're not folding. I guess this isn't going to work.
I mean, as long as Hopkins fires the turn and it's a brick, it should work anyway.
Yeah, hopefully, unless Duy is super sticky.
Yeah, but of course, if they watch the opening of this video with the teaser, they know the turn ain't going to be a brick.
That's true.
10 for the ultimate. Oh!
Oh, wow.
Checking or betting.
And it's the offsuit
And it's
10.
the offsuit 10. So GG Hopkins here.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for playing the Aussie Millions. Enjoy your 25K cash or whatever it is.
Oh, he's thinking, like, how could he put his opponent on ace king? He called the raise so quickly.
This is the ultimate cooler. This is an RU cooler for sure here. Can't do much else.
Hopkins like, oh man, how do I get my value now, right?
Right, Hopkins is like, wow, how lucky am I? I raised the flop, turned the perfect card. Little does he know this is the perfect card to get a payout slip.
55,000.
He is drawing dead and also not going to get away from this.
2 raises, 110,000.
Right, he check min raises. I mean, there's just no way you can fold here. You're sickened as Hopkins facing a check min raise, but you know. I mean, you can't do anything. It's just like
I would just snap going.
as soon as someone. But I mean, you have to be sickened though, right? Like when someone check min raises you here, they don't have queen queen. I mean, probably not.
It's possible.
It is possible. It is possible. But I mean, like this is a pretty hilarious like decision as far as sizing goes, because he only has a little bit more. Just check shove. Check shoving here actually looks weaker than check min raising.
I mean,
Guys.
he's legit thinking about it. He just wouldn't waste this much time if he.
Huge credit to Hopkins for even thinking about it, right? Come on, this is insane. He's thinking about it here. Great instincts. Fold. Nice hand. Show your cards. No one will believe it. What a hero. What a hero Hopkins would be. But you can't blame him, of course. God, he's so
it's
confused.
hard to fold here.
It's impossible to fold here. Because, like, what if there's any chance that Dewey just has, like, king 10 of clubs?
No way.
No way! No way! No way! Wow!
Oh my
goodness!
I don't know. I just wrote.
Can I see? Ace king!
Oh my God! Give it to him, Twitch chat.
Did James Hopkins just become a legend? Is he a legend forever now? Is he bigger than the sun?
He is at least a Jedi. How about that?
Okay, so he's in the Star Wars universe. The Force exists.
It's about time,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Where is that James Hopkins spin-off
I don't
story?
want Jedis to be allowed to play poker. I know that might be discriminatory, but I think extrasensory perception and stuff like that is not fair. If Obi-Wan's playing poker, he's like, you're going to fold? That's not cool.
This isn't the turn you're looking for.
Anyway, this is definitely not the turn that James
Yeah.
Hopkins is looking for. Clearly, this is a very bad turn. He's like, oh my God, I did it.
Yeah.
I'm going to get paid. Maybe Duy Ho has aces and I was wrong about his sizing and I can get paid now. No, you're not going to get paid. You're only going to lose money.
It's incredible to make this play, hit your dream card, and be drawing dead, but that's exactly what happens here to James Hopkins. The thing that's also even more amazing is that James Hopkins susses this out and gets away from it somehow, some way. There were a few things that made it slightly easier, but this is still a crazy beyond above the rim level fold, right?
It is insane. Now, I think this fold is mostly based on Hopkins assessing Duy Ho as an amateur.
Correct.
Without that knowledge, I don't think you can make this fold. I think it's a very bad fold
Yeah.
other than that. But if we put Duy Ho as an amateur pretty much all the time, we think it's most likely, right?
Yeah.
We can fold because of a couple things. One, the min click back when it's a pretty clear check shove if we're going to raise it all, right?
Of course. It's so weird to click back when the stacks are this small. Who does that and why? Maybe some super tricky pros do that once in a while, but mostly they don't, right? Mostly they're just going to shove because that's what you do. Duy Ho, if he was bluffing, not that he's ever going to be bluffing in
No.
this spot anyway, but if somehow he was bluffing, he wouldn't click it back there, right? He'd just move in because how short they are anyway. This just screams of crazy strength.
Right, and maybe in some weird universe, Duy Ho has a set and
Yeah.
Hopkins is actually ahead.
Yeah.
We're not doing great against those hands anyway, by the way, and there are fewer there are fewer combos of. I mean, we're doing well.
We're doing great against
But
sets.
what I
mean
mean
come
is
on.
we don't always win
Yeah.
by the end of the hand.
Correct.
But there are far fewer combos of sets in his range than there are of ace king, just based on combinatorial work. But beyond that, because Duy Ho did not 3-bet the flop, you'd think an amateur, if he's going to induce with a tiny bet, is ready to 3-bet on this wet flop with a set.
I mean, it has to be a combination of that knowledge and the click back that makes it possible for James Hopkins to fold here. I'm still not convinced this is a good fold, by the way, even though he made it. I'm not sure Duy Ho is really going to 3-bet the flop with sets because he is an amateur, and amateurs do like to slow play their big hands.
True.
They're so afraid of losing people. It's unclear to me. I think in a vacuum, if we don't know any more about Duy Ho, we probably do have to make this call, even with all these context clues saying we're often dead, because the pot is laying us an incredible price. And it isn't like we're in terrible ICM situation here, right? Like, it isn't like we're at the final table and
Right.
it's $1 million if we move up one more spot. No, everyone's won 25K, and it's a very slow ride up to the big money jumps. So based on that, I think our hand is just way too strong. Is this the best hand we ever have as
Yeah,
James
that's a really
Hopkins?
good question, the distribution question, because
Yeah.
we probably don't have ace king. We didn't 3-bet preflop. We
Right.
probably don't have king 9 because that's not really good enough to call preflop most of the time.
Not
And
this short.
Yeah, maybe king 9 suited sometimes. So if we have king 9 suited sometimes, this is the second best hand we ever show up with here.
Yeah.
That's a problem with this fold. Another problem is if Duy Ho is in fact an amateur, he might overvalue hands. What if he has
Yes.
pocket aces here? What if he has
Yes.
pocket kings here? That's a real problem.
What if he has queen jack here? He might play queen jack like this.
Yes.
It's not impossible. And if that's true, well, now we're really making a terrible fold really quickly, right?
Right. In practice, maybe Hopkins has been playing with Ho for 18
Yes.
hours, and he really knows this guy's tendencies and understands the type of amateur he is. From our perspective, we don't have enough information to say this is a good fold. We think it's probably a bad fold, but as I said, maybe Hopkins knows more.
I mean, if you know that Duy Ho is only clicking back the nuts, as raises
Yeah.
post-flop, suddenly it becomes a lot easier fold, right? If you've seen him do it 4 times and he's always ended up showing down the best possible hand, fair enough. Then maybe we can actually make this fold, right?
And if you guys have seen, Duy Ho has showed his hand after the fold. So
Yeah.
maybe Dewey's been doing that, and Hopkins has a ton of data on him, and that makes his fold easier.
Speaking of showing your hand, how good does Hopkins feel
Oh,
when you make
so good.
that fold? Because you're on TV too. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
if you're wrong, people are going to make fun of you for a really long time.
Yeah.
Look, we make videos about this stuff. This is what happens
And Jason
in the world.
Somerville's freaking out about the fold. This is the greatest fold of all time, and it is a good fold
It's
in the moment. It
quite
is,
beautiful.
but we're still unsure.
Okay, so that was a crazy fold by James Hopkins. We can all agree on that.
Yep.
We all sort of are pulling our hair a little bit, but let us know in the comments if you think this is actually a good play. We also made a lot of assumptions about Duy Ho,
Yeah,
which
we really did.
allowed us to decide why maybe it's okay for James Hopkins to make this fold, although we're still questioning it. Do you agree with those assumptions, or do you think we're wrong about that? Let us know that in the comments as well. We're looking forward to seeing what you have to say.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty interesting thing when you have to assess a player based on one hand. It's
Yep.
hard to do, but sometimes you got to do your best.
Yeah, I mean, that's your job sometimes when you play poker. You sit down, a guy makes some moves, and you have to make some guesses right away based on just a tiny bit of data.
Now, there's no guesswork in finding out where the Aussie Millions playlist is.
No.
It's right up there.
Bink.
Click up there to check out a bunch of Aussie Millions hands.
Of course, if you want to know more about how we came to all of this, how we decided, we're not so sure if this is such a good fold, even though it looks amazing, you got to check out our podcast, The Breakdown, presented by the Poker Guys. It's where we spent like 50 minutes going to this one hand, all the decisions, all the reactions, a bunch of cool jokes too, by the way.
Oh, of course.
It's on your favorite podcast app or iTunes.
And if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel.